What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. We're going road course racing this weekend at Sonoma Raceway for the Toyota Save Mart 350 over in wine country. And yes, I know road courses are pretty boring to watch, but I do like them for DFS and betting purposes because they tend to be pretty projectable. And this track did get repaved this year, so maybe it'll be a little more exciting. But nonetheless, this happens to be your first time here. What's up? My name is Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Videos on Saturdays, live streams on Sundays, playing for around 1 p.m. Eastern, so come in, say hi. Always a good time. Now, I do want to shout out last week's comment contest winner, Joy Berry, 22 of getting the closest to Christopher Bell, leading the most laps. If you want to enter this weekend, we're going to switch it up. But we're rolling with who do you think is going to score the most fantasy points and how many, and the winner will get a cash prize. And if you do enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's dive right into it. All right, so let's talk some strategy here for Sonoma, and it's pretty much the same kind of strategy for every single road course, although here at Sonoma, we do have more laps than usual, 110, so that's just under 80 total downer points to go around. So while you're not really playing guys as dominators per se, if you have the main lap leader or two in your lineup, that's obviously not going to hurt. But you're mainly just playing guys you think can finish high for the most part, because we have seen at road courses that it's not the easiest to pass in the road, and track position is going to be huge. With them adding stages back, it does help the place differential plays get there a little bit easier, so you can't completely rule them out like we could last year, where just no one's going to pass because there's no cautions, and then whoever starts the top six basically finishes the top six. With there being stage cautions and guys staying out for points and the field getting jumbled back up, that will help some of the place differential plays out a little bit. But for the most part, track position will be huge this weekend, and the fastest cars most likely are going to be starting up front and probably finish there unless there happens to be chaos, which you just never know what's going to happen there. And while this is a one race sample size, so please don't take it to heart, but for the COTA race earlier this year in March, the optimal lineup was Bell in fourth, Byron in first. Gibbs also scored pretty well, but he just didn't quite make the optimal, starting in second. And then Buescher in 20th, Bowman in 17th, Logano in 35th, and Briscoe in 32nd. So a lot of the place differential plays did end up scoring pretty well, in addition to some of the guys starting up front. And finally, moving on to the driver by driver breakdown, I do have to mention one thing first, and as of course, if you're joining the best NASCAR DFS community out there, link is down below in the description or the pinned comment for the Patreon. Access to all the extra content over there, projections, cheat sheets, optimizer, ownership projections, the betting model, articles, my Discord chat, and I do go over trucks and Xfinity with projections now over there, and I do cover baseball every single day in a similar fashion. So if you want to check it out, you're able to find it. Link can be found down below, and the price is very fair compared to everybody else in the industry, and there's a ton of information on there that I think will help give you success on Sundays. And don't forget to check out my partner Stochastic, who did launch their NASCAR Sims tool. You can use their contest generator, pre-contest simulator to see which drivers offer the best ROI or which lineups stack up the best in tournaments on Sundays. If you want to check it out, you can use my own projections, use your own custom ones, use the ones already preset on the site to help give yourself an edge on Sundays using the link down below in the description. Just make sure you tell them I sent you. And really quick, going over practice, I do think some of these times are going to be a bit skewed here if you're looking at the rankings, because if you're just looking strictly at the 10 lap averages, you're going to see Kyle Larson having the worst time of the bunch, then Ty Gibbs having the second worst time of the bunch, which I really don't think is that reflective of actually how much speed that some of these cars have. And I do think qualifying is obviously going to be pretty important, showing who has the best speed, because that's going to give you a good track position, and we know how big that is at a track like these road courses. But looking at some of the overall numbers, I mean, Ross Chastain's obviously got an extremely fast car, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Gibbs, McDowell, Larson, Truex was okay, although he was the heavy betting favorite heading to the weekend. And based off of practice, I am about to watch qualifying. I'm recording this right before that, but it doesn't look like he's going to have the absolute best car, even though he's been incredible at Sonoma in his career. But if we look at the overall lap times, and I always try to take out some of the noisy laps that just really don't make sense. Like if Kyle Larson's running a 75 and he just throws up like an 84 or something like that, obviously a mistake happened somewhere. So I try to take those laps out as much as possible. And if we do that, based off the session here, some of these guys ran roughly around 20-ish laps. Kyle Larson's at the top of the board, AJ Allmendinger, Austin Cindric, Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, Chastain, Busch, Byron, like kind of the guys you'd expect. And practice is never going to be an exact science, but it's at least nice to have some visual representation of the speed we saw during Saturday's session. All right, it's 7 p.m. and we just got qualifying done, and I wouldn't say a ton of surprises. I did not expect Joey Logano to grab the pole. I was thinking it was either going to be Kyle Larson or Tyler Reddick. Reddick on the front row, but yeah, Penske on the pole, backing it up with some momentum after last weekend. But we'll start with the 5-figure range and up. We had 3 drivers this week: Martin Truex Jr., William Byron, and Kyle Larson. So Truex is going to be a big talking point this week. We all know he's won 3 out of the 5 races here at Sonoma the past 5 seasons. Won last year, and obviously is very good at Sonoma. The issue is they repaved the track, which I think is a little bit of a detriment To Truex, as we know how good he is on abrasive surfaces, where he has to manage his tires a bit, and now that you don't have to do that, I would say it kind of slightly takes away an edge for Truex, and he wasn't exactly the fastest car on Saturday. Obviously, he wasn't the fastest car, on Friday, and wasn't the fastest on Saturday. I believe his overall lap times kind of put him borderline 10th to 15th, so I do think he should be able to improve upon this position as the race progresses, and if we're looking at his lap averages, 10th, 12th, and 8th, so if you're looking for PD, I think he's fine, but I don't think he's going to have race-winning speed, which does concern me at the price point. I've not ran projections or ownership or anything like that yet, but I just have a hunch he's going to be slightly over-owned based off of track history and the starting position. Then you have the Hendrick teammates, William Byron, Kyle Larson, starting 6th and 5th, kind of viewing them as the same exact plays, so I'll probably have very similar ownership in tournaments. Wouldn't say either is a cash play. Larson had the best car on Saturday. My only concern is that he did hit the tire barrier during Saturday's qualifying, so I don't know if they're going to have to go to the rear or not. It was pretty cosmetic and they came back out, so I don't think it's going to be an issue, but if by chance they have to fix something and drop to the rear, probably just not really that much interest in Kyle Larson. And then William Byron won at COTA early in the season. We had a nice bet on him to win, and I do appreciate that. And if we're looking at this 8-race sample size here, William Byron, some of the best overall numbers at road courses, so you just really, there's nothing really not to like about William Byron. He's also fast in practice. They're in the 5 lap and some of the overall best times. Maybe the 9K range here, which does look pretty fun. Christopher Bell, who almost won at COTA. If his teammate Ty Gibbs did not hold him up for a bit, I think he probably would have ended up passing William Byron, so we got a bit of a gift there. But kind of similar to his team, Martin Truex Jr., they look like the same play, although you're getting about a $1,000 discount here. He's starting in 15th, so a little bit further up, but just kind of lacks speed in practice and was even slower than Martin Truex, 36th in the 1 lap and 25th in the 5 lap. If we're looking at an 8-race sample size that I want to look at, some of the overall stronger numbers. Not as good as some of the rest, but he's up there pretty much the majority of road courses. And if we're looking at practice, Christopher Bell just kind of lacking down here. I don't know if you can see on the screen here, but he was pretty below average, although Chase Elliott was pretty below average here. Now, some of these laps can be a bit skewed, so I'm not sure how much I want to put into it a ton. But he definitely wasn't that fast on Friday, and then Saturday just wasn't amazing either. So I do think he can contend for a top 10, but that's not going to offer you a ton of PD upside. Especially, if you're on FanDuel, $13,500 just might be a tough pill to swallow for a guy that just didn't really show much speed. Tyler Reddick, I like a lot here. He's only $9,500. He'll be starting in 2nd. I know the 1 lap wasn't that great. 11th the 5 lap, 2nd in the 10. Not as many guys ran that, but it's Tyler Reddick at a road course. We're getting a $1,000 discount off of guys like Martin Truex Jr. and nearly William Byron. He'll be starting on the front row with Joey Logano. I'm hoping he can kind of jump to the lead after one of the braking zones. We will see what happens, but we know how good Tyler Reddick is at road courses. I believe he has the best average running position in the sample size that I'm looking at. Has a win since last year, and obviously if you add 2022 onto that, it gets even better. We extend the sample size here, as you can see, 3 wins, 5 top 5s, and some of the most overall dominator points. I do have a bet on him to win this weekend at 10-1, and with him qualifying 2nd, I'm sure those odds are going to get a little bit better. So I am fine with Reddick in any format this weekend and on either site. I know Sonoma hasn't exactly been his best track, but it's been a lot of bad luck. And Chase Elliott, kind of viewing him as the same play, but I like him a lot. Only $9,300. He's starting in 4th. Should have plenty of speed this weekend. And I'm assuming I might have missed some laps here with him being 33rd in the 5 lap. I'm sure he had a bad lap or two that just kind of skewed the overall numbers. I know a lot of people like to say that Chase Elliott is washed at road courses, but that is simply not the case. He just hasn't gotten into victory lane. But if you're looking at his overall numbers, they are very good. Some of the best dominator points, some of the most fast laps. If you're looking at this 11-race sample size, I believe he's got the 2nd best average running position, the 2nd best drive rating, tied for the most top 5s, and actually has the most laps led per race. So Chase Elliott has not been washed at road courses. He just hasn't won. So I like him quite a bit, pretty much the same as Tyler Reddick, although I'm going to give a slight edge to Reddick, but it's pretty much just a coin flip on those two. But you can play them both together. That is perfectly fine, as we are mainly targeting guys that can finish high, and they can both finish top 2. Denny Hamlin, $9,200. Very cheap on FanDuel. I assume he's going to be chalky over there. He's going to be starting in 25th. He just has had some awful times at road courses in the next gen era. If we're looking at practice, 17th, 21st, and 4th in the 10. Although just keep in mind that many guys ran 10 laps in practice, at least consecutively. And the sample size here since 2023, running position of 14th, average finish around 20th. Was crushing Sonoma last year, qualifying the pole, led the laps early on, then ended up wrecking and hit the wall and ended up DNFing. So it wasn't a great day, obviously, but I think he can improve upon 25th. So if you're just looking for a cheap play with place differential upside, I don't mind Denny, but I just feel like with the name that he has and the starting position and the price being lower than it usually is, especially over on FanDuel, Ownership will probably be higher than it needs to be because there's excellent options right below him and Ty Gibbs, his teammate, who's been a much better road course racer. And this 8K range, just eyeballing it right now, looks pretty loaded. 7K doesn't look too bad either. So honestly, with the mid range looking so good, and I'm just going to assume the cheap plays are probably going to suck like usual. I'm not sure how much we're going to end up getting to some of these like upper 9 to 10K guys, just because there's not that many laps. So it's not like we're forcing in dominators. And if we can just get decent finishes with some fast laps and even some laps led, like Elliott and Reddick, potential lap leaders in the mid 9K range to lower 9K. And then these 8K guys to 7K guys that can get you top 5, top 10 finishes. So that might just be the better way to go. We'll have to see how the projections shake out. But anyway, Ty Gibbs has been one of the best road course racers since last season, only $9,000. Was very good at Coda. I don't see a reason not to like him. One of the fastest overall cars in practice on Friday. And I guess I would say I feel more comfortable with Gibbs over Denny Hamlin, despite him starting 15 spots further up. Then the 8K range, it looks like we have like 4 similar plays here with Allmendinger, McDowell, Ross Chastain, and Daniel Suarez. And since there's not really that many dominator points at all to go around this weekend, these guys are going to be close in projection. If I had to rank them, I would say Dinger number 1. He's just extremely good at road courses and probably contend to win the Xfinity race later on tonight, although SVG is probably going to have a leg up on the field. But I always play Dinger in this spot every single road course. I'll be overweight on him. I guess number 2 for me is probably Ross, extremely fast. Second in the 5 lap, first in the 10, ninth in the 1 lap. You know, Trackhouse does have speed at these road courses. Then probably McDowell number 3. It's no disrespect to him. I know he's won on a road course last season, and I always play McDowell and Buescher every single road course. They're always priced right next to each other, and typically end up being decent plays. But McDowell's been on a bit of a bad luck stretch at road courses recently. And then Suarez number 4 for me. I just don't really see myself getting there too much, even though he is the cheapest of the bunch. And if you were playing cash games, Chris Buescher, Austin Cindric obviously makes sense. Buescher has some insane statistics at road courses. If we look at this 12 race sample size, average finish of 7.3, which is best of all drivers by actually a decent margin. I believe second is Chase Elliott at 10.6, which is some good company to be in. And in 12 races, been in the top 10, 11 out of 12 times. So yeah, Buescher starting in 26, I think makes plenty of sense there. He's also 9th in the 5 lap in practice. And then Austin Cindric, I'm going to assume he's not actually the slowest car in the 5 lap, 13th in the 1. Although, obviously, qualifying wasn't that great, but his 2 teammates qualified 3rd and 1st. So I think Penske's got some speed this week. And Austin Cindric is a decent road racer. So if you're just looking for a PD play, I don't mind him. But also, I see Kyle Busch is down here starting at 29th. If I had to pick between the 2 of Cindric and Busch, I will take Busch. So getting into the 7K range here. So the PD plays are Kyle Busch, Will Brown, and Cam Waters. We have the 2. I don't know what you want to call them. They're obviously not your normal guys in the Cup Series. Will Brown's going to be an RCR this year this race in the 33 car, and then Cam Waters is in the 60 for RFK, who did take a nice spin in practice on Friday. I mean, they're okay, but Kyle Busch should be the priority for me. Kyle Busch has actually been pretty strong at road courses. He was 6th in the 5 lap in practice. Meanwhile, Will Brown and Cam Waters 28th and 29th. And if we're looking at Kyle Busch's numbers, pretty decent, especially for this price point. 4 top 5s in 8 races. For dating back to last year, and if we're going to a bigger sample size here for 12 races, 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s, like Kyle Busch should not be this cheap. Starting in 29th, I mean, that's a fine cash game play. That would probably be a staple for cash, in my opinion, on either site. And then you have the tournament plays of Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Alex Bowman. So they're obviously going to have good track position, and they're very cheap. So even if they don't like completely crush the race and they finish up front, with how cheap they are, it can work out. Like, if this was Joey Logano at $10,000 starting in first, I probably wouldn't have much interest. But Joey seems to have success at these new tracks. They repaved it, and he just tends to do well at these for some reason. So if he starts in first, which he is, and he can hold off Reddick, Byron, and Kyle Larson early on, which is obviously not going to be that easy, and Chase Elliott, I think they're all better road course racers than Joey Logano at this point. So I don't think it's a very easy path for him. But if he can stretch it out, lead a decent portion of stage 1, and then stick within the top 10, it might work out, but there is definitive risk there. And if we're looking at his numbers, while he's not been terrible at road courses, it's not like he's usually a guy that's up front, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. I probably won't have a ton of Joey Logano, but he is cheap, and if he can just kind of stick up there, like on FanDuel, if he just sticks in the top 6 at $6,800, I mean, that's definitely a fine score. Same with Ryan Blaney. So you're viewing them as the same play, although I guess I have to give a slight edge to Joey because I think there's some small dominator upside there, but there's some really good road course racers right behind him. And then Alex Bowman, I would say he's kind of like a low-key underrated road course racer. He has some decent speed with his Hendrick teammates. 4th in the 1 lap, 8th in the 5, and 3rd in the 10. If we're looking at his road course sample size, kind of similar to all the guys right around him with Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. So Bowman would probably be my preferred option of Logano and Blaney in tournaments, but that's tough to get there when you have Kyle Busch. But I would say Bowman's probably my preferred pivot off of Busch over Joey and Blaney, because I don't really see them being up front the entire day. Then the 7K range and below, which I actually should have had Keselowski here with Cam Waters in that range, but I guess I cut him off. But he's just been so bad at road courses. I guess it's deserved. So he's going to be starting all the way back in 35th. And I'm going to assume that's going to bring in some ownership. He's only $1,500 on FanDuel, but I don't really see him finishing that well either at the same time. I feel like every single time at a road course, I mean, you can probably expect Keselowski to spin 2 or 3 times. Looking at his overall numbers, 8 race sample size, 21.5 average finish, which is the exact same as his running position, so it's not like he's getting unlucky or lucky. He is pretty much finishing where he should. He only has 1 top 10 finish, 2 top 15s. Does have 5 top 20s though, so he should be able to claw his way to a top 25, but at the same time, I don't think it's an absolute necessity. Like, sure, if it's a last piece fit for cash, he should be able to move up. I don't think he's going to have any top line speed or anything. Chase Briscoe starting in 2030 was optimal at Coda, but I believe he was starting 32nd in that race. Somewhat of an okay road course racer, but starting in 23rd, I just don't think there's a ton of upside there. Gillen and Hocevar probably starting too far up for me to have a ton of interest. I usually fade Bubba Wallace at road courses. He'll be starting in 18th, 14th in the 5 lap. Just don't think there's a ton of upside there. And if we're looking at his sample size of 8 races here, kind of a guy that's around 20th to 25th place the majority of the time, although he does have 5 top 20s now. He's been getting better, but don't really love the starting position in 18th. Justin Haley in 27th. Just was really lacking speed, which is surprising. He was that slow. 37th the 1 lap, 34th in the 5. Don't see a reason to like him that much. I'll be out on Austin Dillon, Noah Gragson, $6,200, 7th the 1 lap in practice, 13th in the 5 lap. And I believe over in practice, Gragson wasn't terrible. It looks like he had top 10 overall lap speed. So I'm not going to write off Noah Gragson. He might actually have some decent finishing position upside there at $6,200. Nemechek is starting second to last. Can't expect him to have much speed, but if you have $6,000 left for your last fit, he might be the guy to get to. I'm not really sure there's going to be a ton of options down there. Eric Jones in 38th. I usually don't play him at road courses, but they're starting so far back where if we just have the field bunch up a couple of times and they finish 28th at their price points, like that's okay. So I'm not gonna talk you off of them, but speed wise, they're not going to get there. Josh Berry's in the back, starting in 32nd. Probably, I don't really see it working out too well. Ryan Preece, same way. Corey LaJoie starting too far up for me. I usually always fade Ricky at road courses. Zane Smith has some decent speed here, 8th, 15th, and well, I don't really want to count the 10 lap because only 12 guys or 13 guys are in that. But 15th in the 5 lap wasn't too bad for Zane. The problem is the starting position. Daniel Hamrick starting far up. So that's where I'm kind of looking at, where these balanced builds probably look the best on the eye test, I would say, because I don't really like any of these 5K to 6K guys too much. So while I will have some of these guys in tournaments, you can just build probably loaded lineups, I would imagine. If I started with a Chase Elliott or Tyler Reddick, then I went down to a Dinger, Busher, threw in Kyle Busch, threw in Alex Bowman if I wanted to go that route. I mean, there's a lot of upside in those kind of builds. So just a little bit of an opinion before I actually look at the projections, but I have a feeling they might agree with me. But with that being said, that's all I got for this week's video. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, or even if you didn't, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. If you want to check out all the extra content, you know where to find it. The link can be found down below. Hopefully I'll see you on the live stream tomorrow afternoon. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.